Are you thinking about crowdfunding your next project? Are you starting to wonder, hey, is this going to be something worthwhile? What are some of the things I need to do to have something successfully crowdfunded? Well, I've got great news because today I'm going to give you some Kickstarter campaign tips from a true pro and someone who's actually done all this. So make sure that you stay tuned to today's video. Hey, I'm Dale L. Roberts, a best-selling author, as well as a self-publishing advocate who wants to show you how to publish books that sell. And if you want that too, of course, make sure that you subscribe and ring that little bell notification icon and join me over Mondays on twitch.tv/self-publish. And if you subscribe for free with your Amazon Prime, you get a few freebies in the process. I am absolutely geeked up. I know I always say this. You guys are like, oh, you don't understand. Like, beyond belief am I excited to share someone that has some insights about creating successfully a crowdfunded project. And some of you kind of wondered, like, I don't really want to do Amazon anymore. I don't want to do iBooks. I don't want to do this. I want it all for myself. And so maybe crowdfunding is perfect for you. And so I want to kind of tell you about today's guest here. Today's guest is John Celestri, and he's actually crowdfunded a book through two different avenues in Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You may know John from his animation work in the classic 70s and 80s cartoons like He-Man, one of my favorites, Dragon's Lair, the Star Wars Holiday Special, and that is just scratching the surface barely. His recent successful crowdfunding project was for the book Rough Sketch, you see it over my shoulder here, where he shares his story as an up-and-coming animator and gives rare, never-before-seen glimpses into the projects he's worked on. Make sure you stick around to the end, because we're going to talk about how to start, launch, promote, and manage post-campaign tasks. So welcoming to the show, John Celestri. How are you doing, dude? Two-time guest.
Hi, Dale. How are you doing? Thanks for inviting me.
I am ecstatic that you actually took me up on it. I know I've been nagging at you for a while, haven't I?
Yes, you have. But I'm not going to come in unless I have something to say.
You know, it was so funny. I think that was exactly what you had said. You were like, let's kind of wait. And then when you started the crowdfunding thing, man, I was like, this is really, really cool. And you said, wait just a little longer because you had your hands full and for good reason. But rather than me putting the cart in front of the horse, why don't we kind of first start off with the most basic question of, what is crowdfunding, first of all, and why did you choose to go that avenue? Because you're already a self-published author. You have some books on the market, and you also have a traditional publishing deal. Why crowdfunding?
Well, the reason I did that is crowdfunding is the best way to seeing how viable your project is by gathering backers. Now, crowdfunding, you don't have to have completed the project before you start raising funds.
Okay.
And so the thing about it is that you have to promise something and you have to show enough of what you're doing for people to say, yes, I want to back you and I want to support you. And it's not so much that they're backing just a physical item. They believe in what you are doing as an artist or as a writer. Now, one of the things about crowdfunding is that you have to bring your own social media backers into it first. So you just can't, you're not going to be successful without people knowing, through personal interaction who you are. And okay, you might have a very large family, you might have a lot of a circle of friends, but to be able to do ongoing projects, you can't rely upon them to be buying your book. You have to have people who are outside of your normal circle to like you and want to help you because you're giving them something of value that they can't get someplace else. So crowdfunding is a way of gauging that not just through number of uh, of uh, of uh, of sponsors, but how much money you can raise. And that's another thing, is that in terms of raising your goal, like you have to establish a goal that you either reach or don't reach, and that's for Kickstarter and for Indiegogo. There are certain things where some says there's a flexible goal, and so on and so forth. But basically, many most um, most crowdfunding campaigns fail because they've tried to raise too much money.
Ooh, okay.
So that's a and it could be, you could be off by just 15, well, let's say $1,000. Well, that
Mhm.
$1,000 is a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
you could always, if you're only like within a few pennies or a few dollars, somebody's going to come in and help you and
Yeah.
do that. But thinking that you're going to do on your first campaign, all right, to do something like $30,000, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's being realistic with your
Mhm,
reach and then setting
mhm.
a goal appropriately then.
Right. Yes.
Fantastic. So, my question to you would be, what are the best first steps to starting a crowdfunding project?
Okay. Well, I would say the first thing to do is back some of the projects that you find
Mm,
interesting in
okay.
Kickstarter and Indiegogo. See what the other side of the fence has to deal with.
Gotcha.
Say, okay, oh, what am I looking for? Well, go and crowdfund a couple of things. You don't have to spend a lot of money. All you have to do is just give the basic. There's always a $5 or $10 a perk, or level of support, where you're only getting something that's a PDF or
Yeah.
something, but you want to see what's the process, what kind of support or communication between the person raising the money and the people who are giving the money. So you need to have that
Ah,
personal relationship first, and that's the first time you'll do that. So as you go through that, usually they're about 30-day programs, 30-day campaigns.
yeah.
Once you go through that, you could start seeing, okay, let me click in on Kickstarter or Indiegogo and see what are the program, what are the qualifications, what hoops you have to jump through, what does it take to do this, and you have to actually study, research what it is, what the mechanics of doing that, because you will have to do your own um, for the most part, you'll have to do your own fulfillment orders. If
Yeah.
you're doing a book, well, okay, what does it cost to not just produce the book, but also to ship the book?
Mm,
To package the book for shipment in a way that it comes clean, and so you saw what I did with the how you got your package
yeah, it
of
came in. Very
rough
good
sketch.
packaging.
Okay, and so it has to be clean, easy, do not bend. You can't do bubble pack because it'll be destroyed in
Oh,
the
yeah.
mail.
Yeah.
So you need to not just fund some projects of various types,
Yeah.
and then do something that similar to what you think are doing in terms of not content, but if it's a book, then see what they have to do to get the book. See what the cost are, because also you have to make sure that you calculate how much in what you're looking to raise includes not just production of the book, but also, as I said, the packaging and the shipping, but also the percentage that Kickstarter and Indiegogo take on top of
Ooh,
everything, including shipping and fulfillment. So
gotcha.
it's not just the perk; it's the extras. So that combine that into how much you've raised, and so they will take I think it's somewhere. It's in a neighborhood of about 9% between what Kickstarter and Indiegogo each take, and then also the charge cards fees.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Excellent. Really good tips. I'm going to go a little bit off our question list here because it just occurred to me. I remember back before you had launched the actual Kickstarter campaign, you reached out to me and you said, hey, could you look through this really quick and give me any kind of tips? Could you share something about that process that you did, why you did it, and what was the information you were able to curate to figure out how to better tweak it so you had a successful campaign?
Well, the big thing was learning. Well, you have to tell what your campaign is all about. Okay, you're going to have a page. You'll have a launch page.
Yeah.
Okay, but you need to know what is it that you're offering. Who you are in very concise manner,
Yeah.
because not unless you are just giving asking your uncle and grandfather and best buddy, people will not know who you are. So why is it who you are, why you are qualified, and what are you bringing to this project? Okay, so that they can see that.
Yeah.
Giving some samples of what else you have done in the past, but then also why this is something different from what other projects are at Kickstarter. What makes it unique? Always, what is it? What makes it unique? If you are doing just something that someone else has done, well, you know what? They're going to spend a lot more doing perks and doing support. You're asking them to have faith in that you're going to deliver, because they're getting their money. They're giving you their money before you give them the product.
Yeah.
And so therefore they need to know what it is that you are giving them, and then tell them how long will it take for you to produce this project, and make sure it's all concise. You can't say maybe this way or that way. There are so many different crowdfunders that were successfully done, but people are still waiting for those projects,
Ooh,
months after the due date.
bad
and
business.
and that's not good business, and you're not going to what's the word your your possibilities for raising money a second time diminishes.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've kind of corroded that trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Something that you did, and you've kind of hinted at it, but maybe talk a little bit more about it. How did you promote the crowdfunding campaigns on both Kickstarter and Indiegogo?
Well, I didn't buy any ads.
Wow, nice. Well done.
No, I did not do any, and I did not buy any ads.
Yeah.
Basically, the way the promotion comes first, actually, because
Yeah.
I would be doing, at some point I was on Facebook, but that's not very, I mean, it's a limited number of friends and whatnot,
Yeah.
but you need more than that, because you're asking people to support you, and you have to be in social media circles like Twitter, and that's where I do most of my social
Yeah.
conversations, is on Twitter. And I am active in groups, like, for example, in comic book groups. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's not even an official comic book group. There are people who are on Twitter,
Yeah.
and there's plenty. We share interests about old comics and new comics, present day comics. But you have to be someone who interacts with them, not to sell, and that's the biggest turnoff of people. If all you are doing is selling, you've lost them, because why do they want unless you're giving them information without expecting a return,
Yeah.
there's no relationship.
Makes sense.
So for example, I've been sharing drawings. But this is over the last 2 years. So, you have to build a relationship with a bunch of with people who will then say, okay, well, this is what you're doing. Okay, I like what you did
Yeah.
here. And again, every project is different. Every author, writer, person who wants to create something is different.
Yeah.
So you have to share parts of yourself with these people so that it's not just about, I want money from you, I want to sell you something.
Right.
There's a difference between, there is sharing. Okay,
Yeah.
for example, like this book, the book that I did, Rough Sketch.
Yeah.
That's a crowdfunding. Okay, that is, those are the people. I've been sharing drawings I did over the 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and with these drawings, what I did was I printed out. This is a portfolio of samples of who I was when I started, and up to as recent as I possibly can, my present day projects. And so what I did was it's an 84-page book plus the covers, so that's 88 pages,
Yeah.
and it's all just jammed with drawings that no one sees because no one has access to them but myself.
Yeah.
So so you're bringing out all of this material, and I've been doing little by little, little bits here, little bits there. So I decided, well, for my first crowdfunder, I thought, let me introduce myself totally. So this is, in many ways, it's not just a portfolio of my drawings. It's also a story, like a little. I give stories about who I was and what was happening to me, and during the time period when those drawings were being created.
It's
So
very
it's
fascinating
like
too.
a little autobiography,
Yeah.
as I could say. So that's what it was, sharing. That's why I was sharing with people, and they were
Yeah.
supporting me in creating this.
Very nice. Yeah, I know when you reached out to me and I was like, where do I buy it? And you're like, it's not out. Because I was ready to do that. And I think, I've watched you long enough to see that you are a person that delivers a ton of value within the community and around the community, because you and I met each other through Tube Ritual, I think, of all places.
Yes.
Brian G. Johnson's group. And you were giving some great value, and I noticed your YouTube channel, which was fantastic. But it's a fantastic read, by the way, folks. I was expecting just the portfolio, but the autobiographical bit really gave me a better sense of who you are, and I learned a lot of things in there that I didn't know about you already.
Well, yeah, there's all kinds of things there, like animated. Nelvana being in a fish warehouse. The studio. There's a lot, especially when So that's good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. But I will tell you one thing. Besides that, you have to give perks.
Okay.
Something different. If you have a book, and there's the thing, the different levels of support in the various crowdfunding. So you could do like just the PDF version, and people with a very minimal amount of support, but they could do that. They could do that. And then you do the book. I kept it very simple. It was the PDF, it was the book, a signed book, and then there was the signed book plus an original Boba Fett drawing.
Oh, that was so awesome too, by the way. It's off frame here, unfortunately.
Well, the thing about it is that those things are what makes something special, and that's how people who don't have a big program, you have to have something a little different, and so that's so being different is what people are looking for, especially when you're talking about how crowdfunding. You're talking about asking for $20 or $40, something along those lines. The sweet spot for crowdfunding. Now, I don't know what the economic situation is going to be now going forward because of what we're dealing with, but that's like, it was $20.
$20.
You know, it's 20 to $25 is the sweet spot for crowdfunding supporters.
Very interesting. I've learned something new on this one. Okay, I've got like maybe a couple more questions, and I want to make sure that we're going over to the live viewers. We've got a few people hanging out. Thank you very much
Okay.
for doing that. And if you are watching this on the replay, please drop your questions inside the comments and such, and we'll do our best to cover those. All right, so why did you start with Kickstarter and then transition over to Indiegogo?
Okay, so the Kickstarter is, I thought they would have I would have a better chance of reaching an audience. Besides myself, they seem to have categorized, the comic books. And since it wasn't a comic book, it was an art book. But since it was animation, and because that's where, I'm doing comic books now, self-published comic books and animation, that's where that all lent itself to be that. So
Yeah.
I figured, okay, there was a category and people were willing to look at it from that point of view. I did not get any support at all from Kickstarter. In fact, if you tried to find me, you have to know exactly who I was, because they didn't put me into anything, any category like children's or what have you. Yeah, it's a very
Wow.
interesting, weird thing. So I was able to, I was able to get my funding. I mean, these figures, I was looking for $1,000. I got $3,300
Yeah.
when it was all intent. So I was able to do that. I said, okay, and I said, let me try also go Indiegogo, where there was a minimum of $500 to fund. Since I was already funded, I knew that I had the books. Let me see. I just went for the minimum $500.
Yeah.
The reason I also went to Indiegogo was because they have something called, if you successfully fund your program, you can then go in demand, which is indefinite.
Oh, okay.
Kickstarter says once you've done your crowdfunder and you've done it successfully, you can't
And then it's
go
done.
further. That's it. It's
Wow.
done. I mean, they allow you now to extend it a few days, but
Yeah.
it's not like you could do it indefinite. In Indiegogo, you can. I'm indefinite. I finished successfully the Indiegogo campaign. I won 500. I was asking for 500, and I crowdfunded to what is it? It was like $2,400 in that month. And
Wow.
so I was able to kick into Indiegogo or rather in demand. But since then, the funds have gone up to $3,800.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So that's another thing. So you're able to maintain. It's sort of like a bookstore, like
Yeah.
a front, and where you can maintain, as long as you get a donation every 6 months, you can keep it live
Wow.
for as long
So
as you want.
as a for instance, let's say for instance, there's oftentimes I tell people to fulfill orders through their author website, and some people are like, I don't have an author website. Would Indiegogo be a good alternative then?
Yeah. Yes, because they keep the page. All the information is there.
Yeah.
All the various things that you have, they don't stop it. They just say it's now in demand.
Wow.
It's the same exact crowdfunding, format. They don't shift anything. It's just a little switch clicks on, and you go from successfully funded to in demand. So that's how it does, and they pay every month. They take out the deal, but and then you have to make sure that very important, you deliver as you say you would.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I got one last question here before
Yeah.
we go over to the live viewers and such. You've gone through a lot of this stuff right now, and obviously you successfully ran 2 campaigns and have one that's in demand, and it's continuing to be successful,
Right.
which congrats on that. What would you have done differently now looking back on both projects?
I actually don't think I would have done anything differently. And the reason is that
Yeah.
I didn't spend any money, which means I didn't have to raise more money.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I don't know what else I could have done other than try to push it further, but at a certain point, why are you pushing? I mean, you have to look at it is that, are you going to grow this thing? Are you growing as a creator, which means you're asking for resale, or you're asking for more people to come, and you
Yeah.
grow it over a period of time. Now, for example, I had was it 90 supporters in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I have 90 supporters in Indiegogo.
Nice.
So they're individuals. So I have 180 supporters. Now, when I start the next one, I have 180 that I didn't have when I started the first one. So there's a
Yeah.
way. What happens is that you can have a bigger bump, but just you have to see if I made mistakes, then I would say yes. But the big mistake would have been trying to push it too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done. I think you did fantastic too, and I'm very excited. What are the plans for your next project? Do you have anything in the works?
Oh yes. Well, the back of that book says the back cover
Yep.
is my. There you go. John the Animator comics. These are the characters that I've got: Mega Moose, Snuffy, and Zoe. I've got 3 books. Yeah, Snuffy and Zoe. There is those are the 2 villains. There's Captain Braggart, and that's the dragon, and then that's Nick Nartson, who changes into Mega Moose with a wave of his magic feather.
Nice.
And so I'm going to do I'm going to release these books, and a coloring book and a drawing book with Snuffy and Zoe. There are 3 books plus the coloring book, a 4-book set of 30 pages, 32 pages, and so on. And that is to do for all ages comic line, so that it reaches ages from 4 to about 11, 12 years old, which is a market that hardly anybody does today, that isn't part of some sort of, well, I'm going to make superheroes in their childish version. These are straightforward adventures.
Original, brand new. Yeah, that's good. That's what I like about you, and definitely keep me up to date on that next project, because I'll end up funding it. So, hey, how can viewers get a hold of you, and how can they find you?
Okay, well, you've got my Indiegogo list down there in demand.
Yep.
But I'm on at Celestri John. That's my Twitter handle, and I'm posting every day in terms of saying, giving either comic book advice or I'll be making a comment about something else or what have you. I'll be in conversations. So those are the best ways. You can look me up. Just go in Google and you'll find me on my YouTube channel, where I've got the animation videos for free there, and there's also my it's John Celestri blogspot.com. It's my blog that it's all free information on animation and such.
Tremendous.
So it's all there.
Well, folks, you can see right above John, you can point above your head, is how you spell John's last name, Celestri John, over on Twitter. He's very active over there. Actually, we were talking for the longest time on Facebook, but you're like, hey, get a hold of me over Twitter.
Yes.
So, we've been conversating over there. And also, his Indiegogo project, a link is right below there. Let me go over to the live viewers and see there's a handful of people in the house. I very much appreciate everybody tuning in. And, of course, don't go away. If anybody has any kind of questions, please fire them off. I see one right away, and this is by W.A. Blinko. What about GoFundMe?
Well, I have no idea.
Never heard of it?
I have no idea. It's not something that I've approached. I mean, if you're interested in that, the first thing to do is see what kind of projects they are doing, and then see, is it of what you're interested in?
Yeah.
Is it even, viable for what you want to do? I just don't know.
Yeah, well stated. I know with GoFundMe, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, with GoFundMe, you don't have to have like a deadline. So for instance, you can say looking to raise $1,000, but they're not going to put it at a cap. And if you don't make that $1,000, you still make the money that is put into the GoFundMe project. But I could be off on that. I'm not very familiar with GoFundMe. I've never really used it before.
Well, if I may say, when you have something that's like, for example, you have a flexible fund on either Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or if you raise money, well, you may not be able to, if it's not enough to get your project going, you really, you used up some goodwill or possibilities in the future, because how are you going to deliver? You put yourself in a hole.
So true.
For having to do something. So I don't know. That's it. Really, it is individual.
Gotcha.
So,
here's a question from Terrell Hassan. He said, "How or who brought your ISBNs for your material?"
I'm not using ISBNs because I'm not reselling it. I'm
Right.
not selling it into in the books. So that was another thing I didn't do.
No barcode on here.
There's nothing like that at all. There is no pricing on that. It's just my copyright notice, and this is it. ISBNs are good or necessary if you're going to sell them in a book, or sell them to a bookstore, or even have their even a consignment.
Ooh,
but if you're doing everything direct market,
there's no need for it.
You don't need one.
Wow, I'm sure that's got to be music to some people's ears, because the fact that ISBNs are not cheap through Balker or Nielsen in the US and UK.
Mm-hmm.
So well stated. I'm glad that we covered that one, because I know you have had some experience in being an indie author. You had to buy ISBNs before, so I'm sure it was probably refreshing to you that you didn't have to go and shell out that money.
Right. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Did it. But that was like, what was it? 25 years ago, when we were doing before self-publishing was even deemed as more than just vanity press. We're talking the mid-90s, so that's a very long time ago. So
that's when I had hair still. What the heck happened, man? All right, so Douglas Fox got a good one here, and this one's for you, John. What has changed the most about this business compared to, say, 10, 20, 30 years ago?
And about question is, what does it mean by this business?
I'm thinking he's referring to the business of publishing books, I'm assuming.
Well, okay. The biggest one is it's acceptable to do this. As I said in the previous one, anybody who was self-publishing was because they weren't good enough to be picked up by a publishing house. And so therefore the acceptance of, I'm just self-publishing, well, that's norm. Who cares? Because today, as you know, you have to do everything anyway for a big publisher, or even a small publisher. You got to do it all yourself, including editing the piece. You got to pay for your own editor. You got to do your own promotion. What's the sense? Why give anybody and then you only get a certain amount of money. Look at it this way: if you're crowdfunding and you already have your audience, you make sure that you're crowdfunding your piece, your book, the way that you at least make a not a substantial profit, but enough of a profit that's worthwhile to keep going, and maybe buy a new computer to fix your, something that you've been, working on and such. These are all the various things that you take into place, but you don't have to, and you own it all. So that's, to me, that this is better than what it was years ago.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed over top of your right shoulder, the Ingram box. Am I assuming, and I'm sorry if this is a little off, did you end up fulfilling your print orders through Ingram?
Oh, those boxes are 25 years old.
Oh,
they have no. Actually, in there are the last copies of the hard covers and soft covers that I did back in the day. To do our mystery series with Little Mexico and In the Name of the Father. We're doing the Gangster books, and so these were the Ingram books. Those we would ship out books to them, and then they would ship them back. And so this is how they would reship them back to me, in Ingram boxes,
Yeah.
because they would hold on to the boxes. That was the period of time when everything was starting to crumble, and this about 2001, 2002, and they would only hold on your books for 4 weeks, and that's at
Oh.
Ingram. They didn't want to hold it, so they'd keep, they would ship them back to you, and then take a charge back, and then they'd make an order, and then you'd send them, and then you'd get them back, and then they'd ship them back to you. This was the hard thing about
Oh my gosh.
publishing back then, and those are all hard covers, you
Oh,
know.
so
So
that was
yeah, that's
not
what
like
that is.
light shipping.
No, no.
So how did you end up printing out these specific books then here for Rough Sketch?
Okay, I used a company called Mixam, and it's out of Britain,
Okay.
Great Britain. But they use, even though their offices, their printers, and there's something new over the last 2 years.
Hmm.
They were the same ones that printed out the Snuffy and Zoe book.
It just so happens I
That's
have that one
Yeah,
right
that's
here.
it. Yeah,
You guys can't tell I'm
that
a fan.
there you go. That book was printed in Great Britain, and but then what they did was, over the years, as they were developing their system, they came into the States, and they worked out a system with American printing companies and Canadian companies to be able to do all the printing here, so we don't have any shipping going overseas.
Oh, okay.
So those physical books were done in Canada. The rough sketch ones
Yeah.
were done in Canada because of just the low print runs. Those were print runs of 200.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's a high quality.
It's
You
really
know,
nice.
it's really high quality printing. It's 80-pound text. I think it's 110 or 120-pound cover stock. And it's a very good quality piece
Yeah.
there. And so I was able to do that, to get 200 copies. And so with them, they also do, if you do bigger runs, like 1,000, 500, that has to be on big presses. Then they will do it within the United States, within certain areas that's worked within your local area. It might be Virginia coming to Kentucky or something along those lines. So yeah, so they worked it out so that they're not shipping books overseas.
Yeah. That's nice. That's nice. Not too
And
bad.
it is being printed, using American printers and such. So the economy stays here. They get their percentage. The British the printers get their percentage. The Mixam gets their percentage
And that's
on this
spelled
whole
what?
deal.
Mixum?
Mixam.
AM. Okay, good, good. That way, if anybody happens to be looking it up. Douglas brings up a good point, and hopefully you can kind of expand on it. For me, what hit me like a ton of bricks was how hard the promotion part is. Even with a publisher backing you, the author needs to carry 95% of the load himself. Is that something you agree with?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
lot of
And
work.
so, oh yeah, it's extremely hard work. You have to keep shifting hats. You have to be a business person as well as a creative.
Yeah.
But here's where it is. To me, promotion isn't just about selling books. It's about giving of yourself to your potential readers. If people want to help you because you're giving them something of value, then they will support you. And that's how we got to go forward, because otherwise, in this economy, there, we don't have the social safety of anything really anymore. And so what it is that if you are, as I said, and I don't know how many times I can say it, if somebody values what you are giving them, then they will want more of you, and then they will support you. But don't ask for an arm and a leg.
Yeah. Be selective. Be selective with
Yeah,
it.
ask them. Don't try to say, "Oh, I'm going to get." Yeah, you need to give me $50 for this. No, come on. That's what it is. Okay, I hope that answered that question.
Yes, that was fantastic. Well, John, as we start to kind of wrap up today's broadcast, I want to thank you for etching a little bit of time out your day. Is there anything, last minute things that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would just say, follow me on Twitter, and check out the Indiegogo campaign, and but in particular, if you have young kids, that's where I'm going with the next program, which is for creating material for kids that you're not going to get through the regular marketplace.
Yeah.
So that's it, and be kind to each other. That's all.
Thank you so much, John. Well, as we start to wrap things up, folks, I just wanted to say thank you very much for tuning in on this live broadcast. You're watching us on the replay. Good news, actually, right below here in this video, you're going to click this next video. It's actually the original interview with John Celestri here on this channel. He'll talk a little bit about self-publishing, his background and such. In the meantime, take care of yourself, stay healthy, folks.